Hi guys, this is Tracy Sargent from Cedartown, Georgia. I wanted to show you some edible plants. One example of that is a dandelion. What we have here is two small young dandelions. And the great thing about those is that the whole plant is edible. You have the leaves right here, which can be eaten raw or cooked. The yellow flower, which is not shown here, but it does bloom a bright yellow flower, that is edible as well. And then the root itself can be cooked like potato. Two plants here that are edible: chickweed and plantain. Again, you can cook both of these if you'd like, or you can eat it raw. Also, the interesting thing about plantain, it also has first aid qualities that you can use for various things. Right here is a pine tree. And one of the great things you can do with these green needles is that when you're purifying water, you can put this in there and create pine needle tea. And it gives you a nice taste to the water when you're purifying. Okay, what this is a dogwood, and what's useful for this is brushing your teeth. And if you're like me, I definitely want to have, or at least feel like I have, clean teeth. And you can break off one of these branches and just chew on it, and it'll help clean your teeth, and it's not a bad taste either. Okay, what we have right here is an oak, specifically a white oak, and you can get acorns when they fall off the tree. And here's some examples of that. Most of the squirrels have buried the good acorns, but these were some that I just found on the surface. They're pretty old, but just to give you an example. And the good thing about this, you can peel the bark off and get the meat of the nut and then put it on the salad of the plants that we've already talked about. And then these are just the heads. Another way you can do this is crush up the meat of the acorn, and it makes an acorn flour, and you can make bread and pancakes and different things like that. All right, what this is, these are a mix of honeysuckle and blackberry bushes. They're all intertwined. Blackberries, of course, are the obvious blackberries. You can eat those. And then the honeysuckles are these flowers, and you can eat the flowers and the leaves. Also with the blackberries, you can take the leaves and make tea. So they're really very versatile plants to use, and oftentimes they grow together. And typically on the edge where they can get the most sun. Okay, I've mentioned some of the plants that are edible. There are several others that are very common and easily identifiable. Those include kudzu, cattails, and wild onions. Okay, what this is a willow tree, and it's a really cool tree in that it has multiple purposes. One of the things you can do with it is make cordage. It also has a pain reliever characteristic to the bark, and you can chew on it, and it's like aspirin because it has the same type of chemicals that aspirin, or similar chemicals that aspirin has. So it's a good pain reliever when you're out there. And what I wanted to show you specifically is this broken limb right here, because what I made a couple of days ago from that is this spear. So what I did, this was this end of it, and how I made this is that I split it this way with my hatchet, and I came down, put a couple of sticks right here. I found some trash, and in this case it made good cordage, wrapped it around, and this is from this tree right here that I made just a couple of days ago. Okay, what this is a yucca plant, and one of the things I've made with these is actually fishing line. And how you do that is you take one of these leaves and you beat it to get the fibers out. You separate the fibers and then you make it into cordage. And I'll show you how to do that later on. Just wanted to show you the plant itself. It's very distinguishable. It's easy to recognize. Has these long, pointy leaves, and at the end of that is these very sharp needles. And the cool thing about that is that you can use these needles as you would to sew anything. And let's zoom in to show you this. There, that might be better. So it's very sharp and pointy, and it can be used like a regular needle if you need to sew something up. All right, this is a pine tree. It's a bigger pine tree from the one that we showed earlier with the pine needles. And what I'm going to show you about this is that I damaged this just a few days ago, and this came down to the bark itself. But if you look closely, this is where the bark was taken off, but the meat of the tree stayed on, and you see those little, look like teardrops or raindrops. That's resin. And there's multiple uses for that. One of the great things about it is it's a fire extender, and it helps start the fire, which I'm actually going to use this later on tonight to start my fire. You can also use this to make glue. You mix this with charcoal and the resin here, and it makes a very good, viable glue around the campsite. And the bark right here is very good for burning. The wood here and the bark is helpful, again, to help start the fire and extend the fire. And then you have all of these pine needles on the ground. Dry pine needles can certainly help get the fire started as well. So, okay, what this is a rose bush, and the reason why I wanted to show you this is that if you're out there and you need to try to catch fish, you don't have any fish hooks, well, you can use these as fish hooks. I'm going to demonstrate this later on, but just wanted to show you an example. Essentially, what you would do is that you would cut it off from here to here. And the reason being is that you want to have these hooks when you tie on your fishing line to help keep the fishing line on and it not slip off. And then these two hooks are used to actually catch the fish with. Okay, what I wanted to show you here, guys, is I came across this bird's nest. These are great for tinder and trying to start your fire. And it's also, coincidentally, in all these vines, which can be used as cordage. But more importantly is to be able to find bird's nests like this and be able to use it to start your fire. All right, what this is a sapling sweet gum tree. And the cool thing about this, you see here, this is a Y, and you can bind these together to make a little fish basket or any other type of food that you want to cook. And once you weave this, you can put your food there and then hold this over the fire. And it's a really great way to cook your food without any utensils. Okay, what I'm showing you guys here is cordage as well as fire making. And the difference is that if you have a green vine like this one, it's good and useful for cordage. But then when you look here, this is the old dead stuff. You can't use it for cordage, but you can use it for your fire building process. There's also some more over there, and again, a combination of green vine and old dead vines. So as you're walking through the woods, make sure that you take advantage of these and know that they have different uses, but also very important uses. Okay, what we have here, guys, is what we call fat wood. Reality is that it's a rotten old pine stump. And you can notice that or identify that by the pine bark right here. But what's really important about this is that I shaved a piece of this off, and you see right here, this has really got some good sap still in it. And if you smell it, it smells like pine, and it's great stuff to start a fire with. Okay, what we have here are some pine cones, and what you can do is that you place these next to your fire, and because of the heat, they'll start to open up and you can get the pine nuts out of them. And you can throw them in your salad, cook them in with your other food, and they add a nice little texture as well as taste to your meal. What I wanted to show you here is a sycamore tree. And the way you can identify it as a sycamore is two ways. It has a very distinct bark color and pattern. It's what we call winter camo. And you see the different colors and different patterns on those tree trunks. And then if you look around, you can see these golf ball sized balls hanging off of the tree. So that's very distinctive for a sycamore. One of the great uses for a sycamore is making different utensils at the campsite. That could be bowls, spoons, forks, whatever you might need at the campsite. This is a great tree to use that. Okay, what this is a hackberry tree. Similar to a sycamore, it has a very distinct bark. You have this really knotty, rough bark, and then you have the smooth bark that you can see up there. Similar uses as a sycamore, it's a soft wood, so you can make, again, utensils, bowls, spoons, different things that you might need around the campsite. Okay, what I wanted to show you about this tree is that it's a large oak, it's a mature tree, and you can tap water from it. I'm going to demonstrate this later on, but just wanted to, again, show you different uses of different plants. You take a V here and you knot that out with your knife. Once you do that, you would push this stick in here, and what happens, you put a container, the water drips from the tree down this stick into the container. So again, just another useful plant, in this case a large tree, to help you survive in the wild.